Hello, good morning. Great to have everyone here this morning. We are the Stigma-Free Society. This is Wellness Chats with Nisha. And I say good morning, but we may even have some viewers in the UK. So then it would actually be good evening to those over there. Why am I speaking to our UK listeners? Because today I'm going to be interviewing Troy Atkin. He is from the UK, and we are really excited to have him here. You might see him in a little screen. I'm going to be bringing him into full screen soon. So a little bit about us, Stigma-Free Society. We are all about helping people create conversations and, destigmatize mental health, awareness and or mental health talks, like just to be able to talk about things that matter. Myself, my background, I'm a registered clinical counselor, so this is near and dear to my heart. I've worked with the Ministry of Children and Family Development, and I've also been a teacher. Currently, I'm a co-founder of a media company, Human Biography, and we specialize in documentaries and social media commercials. So I'm your host every Thursday at 11 a.m. And I would love to bring in our guest today, Troy Atkins. Hi, Troy.
Hi, lovely to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you here all the way from the UK. What city are you in, Troy?
So I'm from a county called Hampshire. So it's one of the home counties, and it's about 60 or so miles from London.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So how are things out in the UK right now? I know there's a lot going on. I'm guessing it's not so different than here, or maybe you could just kind of let us know how things are.
Sure, it's quite uncertain to say the
Yeah.
least. There's a lot of not a lot of direction from the government, you could say, which kind of causes a little bit of fear at kind of county level. We're seeing individual counties kind of get locked down in their own rights, and we're all just wondering when we're going to be next, or if we're going to be next. So we're spend half of our time stocking up for if we do get in another lockdown, and we spend half of our time making the most of being not in lockdown. So it's trying to find a balancing act between the two.
Yes, no, I hear you, and I feel the same over here. So I'm going to give a bit of a background about Troy. So Troy has an LLB, so his Master's of Law and Honors graduate, and soon to be solicitor, LPC legal practice course, which he's currently in. And he's also an MSc graduate, so he's got his Master's in Science from the University of Law in the UK. So next level, high achievement. Great to hear it. And Troy is passionate about human rights and fighting the stigma against mental health in an Instagram page he also has called The Weightlifting Lawyer, which is a cool page. You should definitely check it out. And it's all about devoting and creating a safe space for all. So I'm excited, Troy, the weightlifting lawyer. It's quite the combination. So, Troy, why don't you start? Just like tell us a bit about yourself, your education, your career. Like, who is Troy?
Yeah. So, whoa, what a question, eh?
Big question.
So ever since I was young, and I know it's a cliche, I've always wanted to help people. And alongside helping people, I've always been quite good at arguing. So when I found out I could get paid to argue and help people at the same time, I thought, solicitor, barrister is the right route for me. So my mental health journey is essentially what I'm the most passionate in life about, and it's being as open as possible and as transparent as I can in order to encourage others to start a conversation. And I think for me that started when I was young, a teenager, when I was going through college and school and things like that. And I think it's a very testing time for people that are going through those things at that time, because you never know what's going on, and you blame yourself and you think, why me? What's wrong with me and things like that. And you don't have the benefit of being a little older and having hindsight and saying, well, nothing's wrong with you. It's okay to be feeling a little upset.
Yeah.
So I kind of went through school and college where I was immersed in all the sports teams. I played rugby, I played cricket. Before this was long before my love affair with powerlifting began.
Yeah.
So I got immersed in all of them, and kind of my mental health took a back seat. It was okay. I was busy. I had a good friendship group. It wasn't until I kind of left my comfort zones, went to college, where it was free reign there. You know, you could call your teachers by their first name. You could do whatever you liked, and that was kind of where my downhill, shall we say, started.
Okay.
I went out a lot, drinking, partying, whatever, name it. It happened, and my grades really suffered, and I actually failed college, um, just
Okay.
for because I didn't really turn up in the end. And I took a what we call a higher education to access course, which is essentially you can retake at a later stage, or what we have A levels. Then that enabled me to go to university for the first time. I thought fantastic, but I was still in the place in my life where I didn't really know what was going on. It was around this time that unfortunately my best friend passed away,
Mm.
and everything kind of spiraled. I was still in the mentality that I used to think that men don't talk, they shouldn't talk.
Mm.
I've come from a big rugby boy background. You know, it's that kind of alpha male culture,
Right.
uh, which I talk about a lot on my Instagram. But so I went to university for the first time, and I actually studied business with law, and I ended up staying for 2 years until I got pulled out. I dropped out of university because my mental health was so bad that I just couldn't continue. Fast forward half a year, I re-enrolled into another university, and the same happened again. I
Mm.
failed, and I got pulled out. And I came to a real impasse in my life where I could keep going down this road, or I could, make something for myself, and for other people. And I've always wanted to help other people. I've always volunteered. I've always worked for charities. I've always done everything I could, but I always wanted to be a lawyer because I could be on the front line per se and helping people directly. So I went to the University of Law and I said, "This is it. This is going to be my last chance."
Yeah.
Um, and the first 2 years I struggled, still was struggling. And 2000 New Year's Eve 2018 was the day that I said I will never have a drop of alcohol again in my life.
Wow.
So I didn't. So before that, I spent 6 years with therapists, um, treatment centers, things like that, and I just decided to just quietly do it on my own. Try and get to a place where I can just. I like to call it take full accountability for my actions.
Okay.
Because before I was blaming everyone else.
Okay.
Someone's made me do this. I only do this because of this action. It wasn't until I just had full control of everything that I had done could I then kind of say, okay, so that's all right, that's happened, but now we could need to move on from it, because I
Mm.
was at a place where I could either live or die, to be frank. And the previous year was terribly bad in that sense. But until this day, I'm sober. I'm still on the journey, as we call it, and I'm in a privileged position where I have a platform where people can read my stuff and watch my lifts, and at the same time, hopefully, get something out of what I write, because I think Instagram's a great platform, because mental health still, unfortunately, has a taboo around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me personally, the way to get through to people who don't necessarily feel comfortable around it is to just leave it there in the background, and they can approach it themselves, and to kind of have a serious conversation around it. So that's what I try and do. They can either follow or unfollow or scroll past, but it's there if they want it.
Yeah.
Um, and what I will do is just consistently post, and then over time, hopefully, these people come and read, and just I'm not asking anyone to understand fully who's not been through it.
Yeah.
It's just that perspective. So
Yeah.
that's
What
what
do
I'm
you think,
passionate
like,
about.
when you even talk about how you chose at one point to just leave alcohol, to just leave it, what did you find was the correlation between like maybe your mental health and drinking? and what would happen? What did you notice? Like, why did you choose to just leave alcohol altogether?
So I've always had a um, tumultuous relationship, shall we say, with it. In that I w- I never kind of thought that I had a problem,
Yeah,
but there was always a problem when I drunk.
yeah,
So I would wake up and go, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym today. I'm not going to go to the pub. I'm not going to do this, this, and that. And by, midday, I'd start to feel my head would fill up with things, and I would, drink.
right. And it's
So
also, in some ways, it could even be part of the culture. Sometimes when it's in your around you socially, like when I went to University of Glasgow for a while,
yeah,
and I remember that during lunchtime or during breaks, people go to the pub and they have a pint, and they even have a pint with their professor, and like it was just part of the culture, and so it just seemed like okay, yeah, and even I'm sure like North America, it just becomes part of the culture to just drink, and I don't think that it's often healthy for us. It doesn't
sure.
help us. And in fact, I noticed even during lockdown COVID, a lot of people drank way more than they normally had. And I think that it has repercussions, right? It has an effect on how you
I,
feel about yourself and your mental health. It doesn't improve your mental health. You don't feel better when you have a drink, even though you think you do.
sure. No, I agree. And for me, I was just trying to numb a feeling.
Yeah,
Um, and I very quickly realized it didn't make the feeling go away. It just made the feeling disappear for a while.
yeah,
And and that resulted in heavy drinking, you know,
right,
and and constant drinking,
yeah,
and binges and things like that. So I was at a point, I remember New Year's Eve 2018. I said to, my partner at the time, we have to, sort of, well, my partner now, this is it for me. We're going to just have a nice evening tonight. And let me tell you this, nice evenings and alcohol and me didn't happen often. Um, you know,
yeah,
so because, I'd be fine up to a point and then click, red mist, something would happen.
yeah,
And it's all about just taking control, because if I'm fragile mentally and I'm relying on a substance to help me through it,
yeah.
well, that's just a recipe for disaster. So
Mhm.
at that point I didn't say I will never have a drop again. I said I'm going to stop this for a month, and
Mm,
then I'm going to stop this for another month.
yeah,
So I didn't give myself a timeline, because then there's not an expectation.
yeah,
I didn't want that expectation upon me, because I promised people before many times,
yeah,
and I'd lost that trust, and I'd lost, they didn't believe me. So I just said in
yeah,
my head, I'm going to just do this month, and then I'm going to see how it is. And then suddenly your mental health becomes clearer. And then I just thought, you know what? There's obviously an issue here. I'm going to stop. And I stopped. And I think it's around 625 days or whatever. I've got an app that tells me. But
Yay, that's amazing. Congratulations. This is a huge achievement. Huge. And so you've noticed a change.
oh, 100%. I always say, in the year before I gave up, um, I tried to take my life a few times.
Yeah.
I was failing. I was failing my undergraduate degree. All this kind of stuff. I didn't have a relationship with my family. My friends were getting annoyed and just on the verge of going, you know what? They were growing up and I was still the same teenager.
Yeah.
Um, but then when I gave up, I passed my driving test. I couldn't drive before because I was always drinking. Um, I, got my degree. I've got my masters. I've got my relationship back. So, and now I've become, I'm on the way to becoming the champion powerlifter. So, I look at
Wow.
all these things. I look at all these things that I have now, and I
Yeah.
think, well, these are the results of my hard work.
Yes.
Why would I go back to that, where
Yeah.
all that's associated to me with alcohol is pain?
Yeah.
but it's but I'm thankful that I went through it, and that's always a weird. People ask me, what are you most thankful for, and it's always a weird thing when I say depression and anxiety and substance abuse, and I say that I'm thankful for it, because in a cliched way it's made me the person I am today.
Yeah.
It's rounded, you had to go through the fire to, it's rounded me to become this individual. So, I mean, look, everything in moderation is great, but I it's a sad, especially around where I live. I see so many people, hitting the pubs 5 days a week, 6 days a week. They're living in that routine, that cycle of
Yeah,
life. They wake up, they go to work, drink, go to bed, repeat.
yeah,
And there must be a hinge of sadness or something there to do
yeah,
that, in
yeah.
my opinion. In my opinion,
I agree.
um, and they because they're trying to fill something that's not there, and you'll never fill it.
Yeah,
And because and I know firsthand because I've been that person trying to fill that hole, you know.
yeah.
So that's my take on it. I'm
And
not
then
gonna ever.
what? No, I think that's a lovely take in that obviously are seeing it from experience and having felt it yourself and chosen a different path. And what advice would you give, like to the youth out there who may be going through similar experiences that you went through, like feeling anxiety, feeling depression, going down this dark path and, maybe feeling hopeless?
Sure. Well, I remember when I was 16, 17, I felt that I needed to go through this dark path because I deserved it, and
Okay.
I deserved everything that I got, basically. And I kind of the advice I would give is just to talk.
Yeah.
And it's everyone looks, for example, everyone might see my page and they might see this 19 stone guy who's at the gym a lot, who's got this degree, he's got a master's, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But that is
Not at
that is
all.
that well, not yet, but that's just that's hard work, and that's pain, that's tears, that's suffering, that's made the man who I am today. And there's no special formula, there's no manual for it, there's no program or book that really can help. It's just, for me, it's just talking. It's as simple as just speaking out and saying, you know what, I'm struggling. And that's the hardest thing to say,
Yeah.
is I'm having a tough time.
I
um that's why my messages are always open for people. And but it's the only advice is just to speak. And you're never gonna the thing is, when you have depression and anxiety, you always think you're saying the wrong thing, and you always overthink what you're
yeah,
saying. And i've
totally.
opened up I've opened up to this person, they're going to think I'm weak, they're going to whatever.
Yeah.
And it's all it takes is just that belief in yourself that it's strength comes from pain,
Yeah.
and you're built through that. But
I
it's
think that's
easy
beautiful.
but it's easy for me to say that because I've come through everything.
Yeah.
So how do you get through to a young person who can't have the benefit of hindsight and look back and see it? So all you can do is talk, is to find
Yeah.
someone that you can trust and that's responsible, and preferably medical as well, and you can just kind of talk and just see where that takes you.
I think that's great advice that sometimes, especially now with everything happening with COVID and a lot of people are in their homes, isolated, not maybe seeing the people they would have seen. It gets harder. Whatever issues we have, they tend to come out more, right? They're exacerbated. We're in our homes alone with our thoughts. And so we might be paying attention, like, okay, I'm going through a hard time, or this is coming up again, or I'm drinking so much that it's causing me stress, or um, and so like for some of our youth or people who are struggling, sometimes they go to dark places. They think, and like you were saying, you had attempted suicide, and yet you're here though. So what were those things that helped you be here?
Partly luck,
Yeah,
um, but I think I've always somewhere along the line wanted to live,
yeah,
um, especially subconsciously in those moments, for sure.
yeah,
Um, and I never wanted to. I've always believed that I could be a value of something to someone. And
mm,
even though sometimes in my life I didn't believe that was to be true, deep down I've always kind of felt that I needed to be here to help others, if that kind of makes sense.
yeah,
And so, I mean, how do I get through the moments? Well, for me, it would just boil down to the fact that, I obviously wanted to live, and
Yeah.
to I think deep down I was crying out for someone to help me, because I
Yeah.
didn't know the right questions to ask. I didn't know, and the people around me, they were so supportive, but they'd never been through it. So how could they help? How could I expect them to help me? And it took, and the thing I'm trying to do is to, because I do believe you should go through some dark moments in your life to get stronger and to get hindsight and benefit from that. But how can someone get to my mindset now without going through all the bad stuff I went through? Because no one needs to go through that. Um, and that's the magic question, isn't it? So, but it all
It's like,
it all co- mm,
it's like going through the pain in order to even feel motivated to keep going, just to like have this, like, I can do this. There is something like, this is what I feel now, but I don't want to keep feeling this. I want to feel this.
yeah.
And there's potential for it. And I think it's lovely that you have, out of your darkness and out of your pain, you're sharing it. You're sharing it with people. You're talking about it. You're creating a space for other people to talk about it or read about it, maybe reflect on it. And like you said, even reach out to you, which is a beautiful thing. So maybe talk to us about the Weightlifting Lawyer Instagram page. So like, tell us about the goal, the purpose. I know that it's like create a space and safe space for people to like read and talk and connect with you. And so how has this experience been for you?
So the page is still set up just to document my journey and keep my accountability there. I like to. I'm quite routine based, in that I like to create a routine and, an environment that's supportive and positive. And the page for me is that. So I'll post 5 days a week or something,
Okay.
and I'll look forward to posting to that. And the the point of the page is so that people can first and foremost know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Um, so I will post everything. I won't leave out any details, and I'll be happy to do that. And I'll be unapologetically open about my mental health, because
Mhm.
I'm at, well, I'm still not at full peace with everything that's happened, but
Yeah.
I feel it's my duty to just kind of just be brave and talk about it, because how can I expect others to do it if I can't myself?
Yeah.
Um, so I just wanted to just very simply create a space where people can feel involved, and you know and not alone, because if you're going through something like that and you're in the grips of depression or something, doesn't matter what anyone else says to you, you think that you are alone. And maybe seeing something when you're scrolling through Instagram, seeing a big 19 stone bloke saying, I didn't feel so great today, and this is why.
Yeah.
It could just encourage a conversation. And for me, you never, because I get a lot of people that message me and say they want to do it themselves. Either they want to have an Instagram where they post or whatever, and I say, well, the this is it. You don't know who's watching. You
Yeah.
could always find someone. Someone could kind of find their eureka moment when they're watching you or reading something you've written. I get a lot of people saying that, and it's very humbling. I get, you've saved a life during lockdown. You've saved my life. You've done this X, Y, and Z. And
Amazing.
and for me, I always say I'm not a trained professional in that sense. I'm just a normal 28-year-old man, just being open about my experiences, and that's all I am. And so I think, and I think that kind of proves to people that you can just be a normal person living your life, opening up, and still be an inspiration to others. I'm not proclaiming I'm an inspiration to others. I'm saying, you know, just by telling your story, it will have an effect on someone else.
I do feel that you're an inspiration for others. It is so refreshing also to hear from, a male who is in an interesting field, like in law, and so high achiever male who is comfortable with sharing their feelings, that thinks
Sure.
it's a good thing to share their feelings, that wants to be open about what they're experiencing in their own mental health journey. And I think this is such a great example and inspiration, not only for the youth, but for all people, because I think it's never too late to open up. You know, it's never too late to share, even in your 40s, in your 50s, even in your 60s. Like if there's something that you've always hid and didn't talk about, you know, now's the time to share it. Because then I think what you probably found is once you started sharing with people around you, that you got closer to people, right? Did you feel a connection? Did you feel a difference in relationships?
100%. I got my relationship back with my father. I got my relationship back with my mother.
Wow.
Me and my brother have never been closer. Uh, my relationship with my girlfriend has never been better because I've always maintained that you can never give 100% of yourself to someone else if you don't give 100% of yourself to you.
Yeah.
So before I was only given a fraction of myself to me. I didn't love myself. I didn't believe in myself. So how can I give that version of me to someone else and expect it to be perfect?
Yeah.
So when I just kind of went, you know what, I'm just going to do this for me. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to do whatever I'm doing. Then the relationship started to heal because it was genuine and it was built from a foundation of trust and love. So
Wow.
so my and you know what? All my best friends came back. They never really went away, but
Yeah.
they were just a bit scared. They didn't really know how to react, and and there are a bunch of lads who don't have these issues, fortunately. Um, and they're actually starting to ask me questions now. They're asking me about it because I still, just because you have mental health issues doesn't mean you can't be the loudest in the group, doesn't mean you can't be, you can't play Jack the Lad and things like that and whatever you want to do. So that we're creating that culture, and this goes back to my point of I never force it on someone, and they've come to me even though it's been a year and a half or whatever year and 8 months, 9 months, they're now coming to me, and I'm now broadening hopefully what they know about the topic.
Wow, it's amazing to see that like you opening up and sharing has like affected and changed and improved all of your relationships.
Yeah.
Let, you know, it just helps to start to fill you up. And I know sometimes people might reach out and like you said, like I experience anxiety and depression, that you are concerned with what do I share with people? Are they judging it? Was that a mistake? And you know what? That's okay too. There will be people that might not respond the way you hope or think, but it's worth a chance because it's okay. It's okay. Whatever their response is, it's not about you. And the more you can share, then the more maybe next time they'll feel comfortable to share something with you too. And so maybe you could tell us a bit about, you know, what are your goals for the future? What are you excited about? What's next?
So, I just quickly on that point, I completely agree. And you have to remember it's your journey, no one else's. So you can't expect anyone else to get on board. And if
Yeah,
they do, then fantastic. And those are the people that you can take with you for life.
yeah,
And not everyone's going to understand it, and it's not your job to make them understand. It's
yeah,
your job to just create that conversation and to just so that's why I'm going to be open about it. And I don't expect everyone else to kind of create a page and go, this is all my feelings. Um, I only do it because I will be able to reach a wider audience and reach people with different kind of levels of mental health issues.
yeah,
Um, so I'm happy to do that. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. And my goals for the future, in career wise, eventually would like to become a barrister in human rights and civil liberties and things like that. But I will never let my mental health mission take a backseat because that's the most important for me, is to look after another and to make sure that we all get through together, because life is hard and life is tough. No one's disputing that. But we can get stronger individually, and we do that by working together. So for me, that's my life mission. It sounds a bit cliched, but I will never ever stop campaigning to end the stigma around mental health and to create that culture of conversation.
I love it. I love it. I feel that we're on a similar path to create those conversations and end the stigma, and to just know the most important thing is, if you want to like give and feel love, like start with yourself,
Yeah.
because that self-love is so valuable. It's everything. And in order to love and give love, you have to love yourself. And so, Troy, I just want to say thank you so much for being a great example and inspiration to so many. And also by being, unique, and by being yourself. You're a weightlifting lawyer. Like, that's great. You're just taking all the things that you are and you're just sharing it, and that's who you are. And I think that that's the type of thing that people are drawn to. That's what people are, happy to see, because then it maybe gives them hope that they can also just be themselves. And so thanks for sharing your story today. And we look forward to following you on your journey. Follow him at the Weightlifting Lawyer. And thank you from the Stigma-Free Society, everyone who's watching us today. And just, go do something for yourself, something that you love to do, something that makes you happy. And even if that means writing a list of things today that make you happy, and that's always a good start. And if that's weightlifting, or if that's gardening, or it's walking, whatever it is, just go do it, because you deserve it. So thank you, Troy. Have an amazing day.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody. Bye now.